my name is Catherine Carey. I'm the Director of Assessment Data Technology, Registration, and School Community Outreach. I'm here with the Washington Township Public Schools Superintendent, Mr. Joe Bollendorf, and today we are going to provide answers to the top 20 questions that parents and staff have asked us about the 2020 reopening of schools. And these questions were collected via a variety of means, one of them being the COVID-19 info email that we asked people to submit any of their questions, comments, concerns. So these are the top 20 questions for the 2020 reopening of schools. You ready, Mr.
Thank you,
Bollendorf?
Kathy. If I could just say a couple of words before we get started for our folks at home. One of the main questions that some folks have is, what options we really had. Why aren't we doing 5-day-a-week instruction, things of that nature? Why aren't we doing full remote instruction? And currently we are acting under the executive orders of the governor's office and the Department of Education, which have essentially directed us to make sure that we can offer options to our families that include in-person instruction, while at the same time maintaining social distancing. So all of our plans are based on those guidances that offer opportunity for in-person instruction while still providing social distancing for our families. So my questions will be relative to that guidance, and hopefully this will help folks understand a little bit more of what it is that we're dealing with.
Thank you. The first question is, what is remote instruction going to look like? Will there be live instruction when the students are learning remotely?
Well, remote instruction is obviously one of the options that our families have. But currently, while we are delivering a hybrid model where our teachers are engaged in live instruction 4 out of the 5 days, what remote instruction could possibly look like in a full remote, if the school were completely in remote, it's clearly very different than what it will look like when our teachers are balancing both a schedule that includes live instruction and remote instruction. So in some aspects, the remote instruction will have similar characteristics to last year's, where students will be given opportunities to learn via an asynchronous platform where teachers are recording lessons, providing documents, providing direction. What we will increase a great deal this year is the opportunity for our students to interact with our teachers. Wednesday has been set aside for that remote instruction day, where teachers will offer office hours during the course of that day or other days during the week, when students will have the chance to log on, visit with their teachers, ask questions, get clarification, get the help that they need and the direction that they need. That in combination for our students who choose the hybrid model and avail themselves to instruction a couple of days a week, we think will really help bring our kids up to speed in the way that they need. Some kids flourished in the remote model, other kids struggled without that guidance and direction. So our hope would be to provide a greater level of that guidance and direction through the remote model. Additionally, our students who need supports, speech services, things of that nature, BSI, those services can be provided in the remote model as well through direct instruction with those students who are in need. So the plan is to greatly increase the availability and the connectivity of our staff in a live way with our student body in this hybrid remote model.
Thank you. And along those lines, if a child begins the year remotely, can they switch to in-person learning at any time and vice versa?
They can, but it won't be at any time. The committee is working now to ensure that that transition can be done in a safe and seamless way, particularly when students may want to convert from being in the remote model into the in-person live model, ensuring that the busing and the other social distancing requirements that are need to be in place can. So it may take a little bit more time to transfer a kid back into the in-person model. It probably is a much easier transition to transition them out of the hybrid in-person model to a full remote model. But parameters on how frequently that can occur will be coming out this week in our final guidance. But the short answer to the question is, we are prepared to allow families to make that transition.
Will there be group work or social interaction for students, including those working remotely? For example, group WebEx or team meetings or group projects?
Absolutely. That's part of the more robust remote learning model. In that office hour model, teachers will make themselves available during a specific period of time on a given day, mostly on Wednesdays, when students will have the chance to log in and visit with their teachers along with other students that are in that class as well, or have that teacher at all. So that interaction not only can occur then between the student and the teacher, but between the students themselves. So we absolutely will have that opportunity for our kids every week.
Can teachers live stream the lessons they are teaching in the classroom so that students who are learning remotely can feel included as part of the class?
We looked at live streaming as a possibility for our students. There's some many challenges that face our teachers. First of all, from a technological standpoint, do we have the ability to push out a live stream of every single teacher teaching at the same time? We don't know the answer to that question. We think maybe that's possible. We're not 100% certain. What we can't control is whether or not all of our students at any one time can downstream what it is that we're live streaming within their own household. That's going to largely depend on the strength of their Wi-Fi in their home. And so it's a bit of an equity issue. We can't be 100% certain that if we do that, that all our students will receive it. So that becomes then a very difficult challenge. And then there's other kind of technical challenges within the classroom. Right now, the only capability of any kind of live stream is via their own laptop. We don't have cameras in the room that can pan and show the room while the teacher is up, perhaps demonstrating, doing a dynamic lesson. They're really confined to their laptop, and then, of course, then the quality of the camera on their laptop. It's really going to change and shape the way a teacher may be able to actually interact with kids in the classroom. We're not really sure that that's the best thing. So currently, right now, our plan is to have those remote lessons converted into an asynchronous way that students can go back and watch and rewatch. Teachers can record themselves using Schoology in terms of what it is that they want to provide for their children, and then support that learning in a live, synchronous way throughout the course of the week, especially on Wednesdays when they open up office hours that will allow students to be able to visit them in a live and interactive way.
One parent says, "My child has an IEP. Will he or she receive the services that he or she is entitled to?"
That is our intention. That is something that we clearly need to do a much better job of as the year closed on us last year and our ability to provide those services. So our ability to do that, particularly in a virtual way, is very critical for those children that are coming to school. They certainly can avail themselves to those services in the building when live, but for those that choose to be remote, those services will be delivered in a remote virtual way.
And will the pre-K program still be available?
It will. We just put some final touches on that. Pre-K will go 4 days a week, but instead of Monday through Thursday, it'll stay on the same cycle with the rest of the district. So 4 days a week, preschool, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Remember, that's a 4-day program. So unlike all the other school children who will be receiving remote instruction on Wednesday, the preschool program will not on that particular day. Students are engaged in their prep because unlike other teachers that get prepping during the day, preschool teachers prep on a singular day, that 5th day of the week. So that prep day will be for them on Wednesday.
Okay. And this is a big one. There's a couple questions in here. What safety precautions are being taken at school and on the buses? For example, how will the classroom buses be sanitized daily and in between classes and runs? And what types of cleaning products will we be using?
Well, many of the finer details as it relates to this question are still being analyzed and decided upon by the Health and Safety Committee. And I would imagine that even as we come closer to the start of school, there will still be evolution and evolvements to the things that may become available for us to do. But at the immediate, providing the appropriate PPE for all the folks that are involved, face mask, shields where necessary, particularly in our self-contained settings for our teachers and our aides. For our students, face mask will be required while they're in school and while they ride the bus. So essentially from the moment they get on the bus to the moment that they come home, our students will be required to wear face masks, as will all other staff members. During the course of the day, constant disinfection will be going on throughout the course. We're using all PPE, all the products that we're using are all approved by the EPA as the appropriate products for the killing of COVID in our classrooms. These will happen periodically throughout the course of the day. Supplies will be available in the classrooms for spot cleaning to take place by our staff. And then even for some of our older kids, for them to clean off a desk or surface area that they want to clean off, they'll have the availability to do that in addition to what the custodial service will supply. Buildings will completely be disinfected every single evening so that they are ready for the start of school the next day. And a deeper, thorough cleaning of the entire district will be taking place every Wednesday. School buses will be cleaned twice a day between our AM and PM run, and obviously after our PM run in advance of the run the next day. And any spot cleaning that needs to be done along the way, our bus drivers will be supplied with the necessary things that they need to be able to do that. The district has purchased static electric sprayers, which will spray the appropriate EPA-approved chemicals. It's a fast-drying solution. It does not need to be wiped down and automatically kills any virus on contact. So we'll be utilizing that throughout the district all day long.
Thank you. And you touched upon this one, but just in case you want to elaborate a little bit more, the question is, will children be required to wear masks? Will teachers and staff be required? And what if a student refuses to wear a mask?
Well, the only students that would be excused from wearing masks, and obviously another protocol that would need to be put in place, were students who had medical difficulties in wearing the mask. Otherwise, all students and all staff would be required to wear a mask. If we had a student who was refusing to wear a mask in the absence of a medical need not to wear a mask, it would be similar to a student refusing to comply with whatever school regulations there were. And the school administration would, unfortunately, in that case, have to exclude that student, restrict them from school until such time as they were prepared to comply or choose to stay on remote learning if they can't wear the mask or refuse to wear the mask. But if they're planning on coming to school and being part of the in-house instruction as part of the hybrid model, they will be required to wear a mask.
If a student or staff member contracts the virus or comes in contact with someone who contracted the virus, will everyone who came in contact with that person be required to quarantine?
Currently, right now, that is not the protocol that we are receiving from the County Office of Department of Health. We are following their guidance and their protocols in this particular regard. And they're very specific, and quarantining everybody who may have come in contact with that person is not in that guidance. There are specificities to the proximity and the amount of time that people may have been exposed. And if they do not go beyond those thresholds, then those folks do not need to be quarantined.
Will the district be allowing substitute teachers? And if so, what precautions are being taken when utilizing a substitute?
We are working with our subs provider, ESS, and essentially what we're working on is a cache of permanent subs for each building. So a handful of subs will show up every single day at the same buildings and only those buildings, essentially making them part of the staff of that particular building. They will not be going to other districts, and they will not be shared amongst buildings within the district. They will work only within that building themselves. So they'll fall in line with the same protocols that we put in place for any of our staff members. They will, do their symptom check before they come to work each morning and provide that information to the district upon their arrival. So they'll be treated, and the protocols will be the same for any other staff member that we have.
Will there be proper ventilation in the classrooms and offices for staff and students, allowing fresh air in? If not, will those staff and students in those rooms be moved to rooms with appropriate ventilation?
All of our HVAC systems have a certain amount of outside fresh air coming into the building. That's part of the ventilation system and part of what is required by OSHA. So there is fresh air being introduced to every single room. And what percentage ultimately depends on the amount of humidity that may be in the outside air. But a certain percentage of outside air is introduced to every single room. Most of our rooms are equipped with windows. So the ability for a staff member to open up a window on a fresh day is certainly something that is available to them to be able to do. But every single room has the appropriate ventilation.
How can I get a laptop for my student to use during remote learning?
A distribution plan will be forthcoming by the district for every one of our students to get their laptop and or iPad. We have enough iPads and laptops that every single student in the district will have their own personal device. So there won't be any need for a family of 5 to be fighting over laptops or iPads because different children need to get their homework or their work done for the day. Everyone will have their own device, which is why now being able to provide office hours, a bit more synchronous instruction on that level is now more capable. Last year, in those last 3 months, we did not have a single unit for every single student, particularly in our lower level grades. We had kids in kindergarten, first grade, second grade that were not equipped with their own device. So trying to do synchronous lessons was very difficult, if not impossible, because we couldn't guarantee that every student would be able to log on and meet with their teacher at a particular time unless that family had enough devices for all their children. So this year, that hurdle has been crossed. We have focused our attention on that. We are also providing Wi-Fi hotspots for families in need so that every family not only has a personal device in their home for every child, but also access to the internet.
Will students be attending gym classes? How will this be organized, and will they be using gym lockers and changing clothes?
Currently, right now, for the first marking period at least, we are providing health instruction, and if we need to provide PE instruction, physical education, it'll be in the form of a remote at the secondary level. At the elementary level, our phys ed teachers will be pushing into classrooms and providing physical education instruction for our children in their classes. When the weather's appropriate, they'll be able to take them outside and do things with them. But students will not be reporting the gym. They will not be reporting to their locker rooms. They will not be required to get changed. So we're taking a very safe and cautious approach as it relates to physical education instruction for at least the first marking period.
Is there counseling available for children who are feeling depressed due to the effects of COVID?
Yes. Um, There was last year as well, but this year it'll be more specific with regards to our ability to connect with our children who are on the remote level and support our children in the hybrid model, whether it be in remote days or while they're in school. But that will be a very big part of that connectivity of guidance counselors, of SAC counselors, offering opportunities for students to dial in for office hours, to reach out to them, and for our counselors to make direct contact with those children to support them in any way possible.
There will be more parents driving their children to school and picking them up. How will drop off and pick up be organized to avoid chaos?
Well, I think that the district and the schools themselves are going to need a little bit of time to analyze what that looks like when we first start. I think that they'll do the very best that they can on the onset, and then they'll obviously have to make accommodations to make things run more smoothly and more safely as they see how it unfolds. We should have a pretty good sense based on the surveys that are completed, how many of our students are actively going to be riding buses and how many students are going to plan to be dropping off. So what I would envision is there to be perhaps multiple drop-off points and entry points so that we can get our students into the buildings to relieve traffic pressure and also relieve students from congregating in close quarters with one another. That is definitely a part of the plan. So we'll continue to analyze that and work with it and make changes along the way as we see the need.
Will staff be required to be tested prior to the start of school?
At this moment, no, we are not requiring that. Our staff, like every other person, is basically acting on their ability to analyze themselves through symptoms. If they're showing symptoms, if they're taking their temperature and doing things of that nature, then it would be okay for them to be able to report to work. It's important to note that a COVID test, is a snapshot in time. So, it may give people some comfort that if I had a COVID test the week prior to school and I was negative, that would seem to indicate that I was okay. But it can be contracted at any time, and a test that's 3-4 days old really doesn't necessarily mean that you're COVID free at the moment you go to a particular location. So, the symptom checker is really the most important thing that you can do, that when you feel like something may be wrong, if you're running a temperature or you're showing any of the signs and symptoms that are listed by the CDC, that under those circumstances, you wouldn't report to work. You would do what was necessary to take precautions and then perhaps get tested to ensure that those symptoms that you're experiencing are not, in fact, COVID related. One of the things that we are doing at the district level is looking for an opportunity where we may be able to bring or make available to our students and to our staff the opportunity to, on a monthly basis, test in the building. So we are still working on that because we want to make the availability of testing as convenient as possible for our staff and for our students. And our understanding based on current day is that COVID testing for all is free. It would be either covered by your insurance, and if you do not have the appropriate insurance, it's certainly covered by the state and federal government because they're urging folks for that COVID testing. So that's the road that we would pursue.
All right, and our final question is, will extracurricular activities and sports still be offered to students?
If school is on, it would be our intention that as many things as possible would continue. Currently, the NJSIAA, that's the governing body for high school sports in the state of New Jersey, is planning on a fall sports season with practices beginning mid-September and regular season games beginning in the beginning of October. It'll be an abbreviated season. They've rescheduled so that schools are playing other schools in closer proximity so that on away games, those trips by bus are much shorter to those facilities. Naturally, social distancing requirements for busing would be in place for those trips, just like they are for school, and any other protocols that are required of our teams per the NJSIAA. With regards to extracurricular activities, that would require us to analyze those activities that we believe can exist in a virtual model. If activities like student government, student leadership, who are planning and organizing things, charitable causes, things of that nature, those things can, I believe, continue to exist in a virtual environment. And under that assumption, I would encourage that they would continue to move forward. Other extracurricular activities like intramural sports and things of that nature may be difficult to do. Because providing that opportunity could not be done in a virtual way. So we'll be analyzing those things, and a list of what can continue and what may not be able to continue will be forthcoming.
Thank you, Mr. Bollendorf. That ends our 20 for 20. Is there anything else you'd like to tell parents and staff?
I just want our parents to understand, what a significant challenge this has been for all of us. Our task force and our subcommittees, which are really representative of our community. Over 30 of those folks have kids in our school, are working as hard as possible. There's this great dichotomy and balance between the folks that just think we should be full remote and other folks that think we should be 5 days a week school, and trying to strike that balance where we can provide schooling for our children, which we all know is very critical to not only their educational development, but their social and emotional well-being, is what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And trying to do that in a way in which we can assure that folks are going to be safe is a daunting task. And in the end, no one will really know whether or not it'll be 100% successful. We're seeing some of the problems with our, major league athletics that are going on right now. As things progress, things can change very quickly. We could pivot to a full remote before we know it, or find success in this model. There is reason for hope. There are other countries that have been doing this successfully, and hopefully we will be able to move in that direction and provide an in-person education to some degree for our children, because, myself especially, I find that that's really critically important. Not everybody can thrive in the virtual realm. There are many children who need the love and support in person of our staff. And I know that our staff is anxious to get back into their classrooms and help their children as best as they possibly can. So with that, I hope that folks recognize that and will, trust us in this process to do what's right. And we'll continue to work hard to maintain that trust.